What's going on? It's Matt. We are back with another Expert Restaurant Roundup. We've got Chef Andre. We're going to talk about this book, and I just found out he has another book, and we're going to talk about where I got this old picture of him because he's curious about it. You might be too. We'll see in a second. Chef, what's going on?
It's a good day. I'm in Austin, Texas. The sun is shining. It's good to be here.
See, you said before we got ready to go, I think right when we were going to go on, you said, where'd I get the old picture? It looks pretty current though. Are you not aging?
That picture that you have right there is probably 6-7 years old. I'm looking at the embroidery. That's how I knew. It's like, oh, that's like three or four jobs ago.
So tell us about you. I know you from your first book, and you got a second book you're going to talk about today. Tell us a little about you. Mm-hmm. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
So right now I live in Austin, Texas, and I've been in Texas probably the majority of my career. I did a little stint in California, Colorado, but let's say for the most part of my career, I've lived in Texas. Okay. I was a chef for 17 years as a head chef, executive chef, chef de cuisine, and I've been in the culinary industry for 27 years. So at about the end of last year, I decided that I wanted to walk away and step away from cooking. My real passion, it was being a chef for many years, but now my real passion is helping young culinarians become chefs. And it was something that I felt that I owed to the industry. I owe this to cooks. I've accumulated this knowledge throughout my career, and I want to pass it along because the industry right now, more than ever, needs better cooks and better chefs in it.
Can't disagree there. And you've written 2 books. You got the podcast. So I know you from this book. We'll talk about the title because, how not to be the biggest idiot in the kitchen. That would, for me, it would be easy. I just won't go in because like I told you off air, I'm good with DiGiorno's and Pop-Tarts. The other way is you got the podcast, and then you've got the newest book, which you've got a copy of it right there. You said it just came out, right?
Yeah. So this one right here, I just wrote it. Culinary Leadership Fundamentals. This one, it's everything that I wanted to know when I was a first-time executive chef. Like everything that I need to know, it's in that book. We cover food cost, negotiation, job interviews, hiring, trying to get the job yourself, negotiation tactics, and marketing yourself. All the things that the modern chef is really dealing with. So everything that you should know when you're an executive chef or your first time running the kitchen, but you may have skipped over because you've been behind a cutting board or a stove.
And you said something that goes right to my heart there. You talked about marketing yourself. I'm 46. When I got in media and marketing back in 1999, like if you were a chef at a restaurant, you marketed yourself by table touches, being known, doing some stuff in the community. Today, you've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, email, Twitter, text. You've got all sorts of places that you can build a brand. And I personally see that as a big gap in the industry because I talk to a lot of restaurants and their staff and say, hey, one of the best things you can do to market this restaurant is get on camera, go live, talk from the kitchen. And then at the same time, you can also use it to market you because the more marketable you are, your next job, you're more appealing to, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. And, it's funny you bring that up. I have a friend that's a TikTok social media influencer. And when I was in this transition going from chef to, I guess you could say, content creator, I told her, I said, hey, what kind of advice do you have for me? She says, you got to get in front of the camera, talk to the camera. I said, I don't want to do that. That's not what I like to do. And she says, well, then you're not in the game. If you're not even talking to the camera, you're not in the game. That's what it is now. So, it's a whole different world, social media. And I'm sure you've talked about this before, but the difference between being a creator and a consumer is huge. And it's a full-time job.
Yeah. And you talked about getting in front of the camera. I'm on a camera here. We're on this podcast. This will go audio. I also have a camera over here on my desk, a Canon EOS R, whatever that is. My team set it up. It's recording. So I'm usually recording from afar, recording on my computer. I got my phone. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. And I think that I was talking to a chef recently because he asked me, he's like, Matt, if you were me, what would you be doing? I said, well, number one, in this day and age, building your brand is what you should be worried about. Like you might own a restaurant in 10 years. And the way that restaurant's going to be more impactful is if you're more impactful. And, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, they're all free. So the fact that you're not using them, I said, on top of that, it enables you to help the place you're at right now, because the stuff that people are fascinated is not, if you look at most restaurants, what they put on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram is garbage. It's sales. They've basically said, oh, we don't have to buy radio and TV anymore. Let's just put sales messages here. I said, you're the person in the back. Take your phone out and talk about what goes into this dish. I saw one of the restaurants that one of my team members consulted with recently said, hey, you talk about how these burgers are made uniquely. Show us. And they went for 4 minutes, went live. And I'd never seen a burger made this way, where they got this giant hunk of meat, chopped it all up, filleted it, then ground it up, and then put it in this machine and made a burger. It was pretty cool. And thousands of people watched it. And that's something that is way different from what you see put out there by a lot of restaurants.
So when I'm on social media as a chef, I follow other chefs, right? So just like every other chef, I'm looking at food pictures, and it's kind of boring. You're scrolling. It all looks the same. It's just beautiful food. And every now and again, I'll see something interesting that's not food, and I stop. I pay more attention to the things that the chefs post that are not food than the food that they post. Because all the food, it's just pretty garnishes, pretty salads, pretty fish, and you just keep going. And then it's like, oh, he's talking, or oh, he's showing me something. I'll stop. I'll pay attention behind the scenes. I'll tell you a funny story. A couple of years back, this is right during the pandemic, I had interviewed for a TV show, and some casting producers reached out to me, and they said, hey, we're looking for the next Anthony Bourdain, and you've got our attention. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So, I dressed up. I was getting in front of the casting producer, and I went through several interviews. I didn't end up getting the job. I don't know who it went to, because I still don't know if Anthony Bourdain's been replaced, but I thought it was interesting that they reached out to me. And I asked them point blank, I said, why me? Why did you reach out to me? Why'd you find me? And they said, this is what they said, and this is a true story. They said, because all the chefs we follow post food, and you're the only one that's, talking crap, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey, and showing us the behind the scenes. They said, you're different. That's what caught our attention. I said, oh, okay. I thought it was interesting, but it's good advice to chefs and other people that are creating, is if you're doing the same thing as everyone else, you do get lost in the noise.
Yep. Have you ever heard the terminology blue ocean, red ocean?
No. What does that mean?
So there's a book, I keep it on my desk for this reason, called The Blue Ocean Strategy. And the concept of it, in my layman's terms, is that you've got red ocean, which is it's red because there's blood in the water, because the sharks and everybody are feeding off the same carcass. The blue ocean, there's no blood in the water because nobody's doing it. And a lot of times it's scary to go to the blue ocean because, okay, why is nobody doing this? The other 50 chefs in my city are posting these great pictures of food that are just perfectly plated and look amazing. I mean, it being plated and showing the one they screwed up, or talking about, hey, we're a bourbon bar also. By the way, what goes good with bourbon? You mentioned cigars. My favorite cigar is this. And I'm just going to sit here and smoke it and talk food with you. And that blue ocean is doing what nobody else is doing. And, we have a podcast I do with a guy named Sean Walchif out in California. He owns a restaurant called Cali BBQ. And the title of the podcast is Own Their Phones. And the title came from my dad, who's 75, because my dad one day said, Matt, the title of this new podcast with Sean should be about owning the attention of customers on their phones. That call it Own Their Phones, because if you own their attention on their phones, they're going to visit your restaurant more often. And the stuff that you're talking about, all these pictures that you don't stop on, doesn't own the phone. The algorithm, if you don't stop on a picture, Facebook sees that. And if you're fans of your Facebook page or your Instagram account consistently scroll past your content and don't stop and don't engage, they take those customers out of the mix. And you go from having, Papa John's, I did an example of them the other day. They have 6.7 million Facebook followers, and their average post gets about 200 engagements. I mean, think how poorly they've used the platform to have lost basically everybody. But when you're talking about here, give me some examples. Like, what is something that would get you to stop? Like you mentioned, smoking a cigar, drinking some bourbon, talking about the back of the house. What would be something that you would suggest chefs to do to get into what we know as the blue ocean?
I would say, look at who you are. I think that's step one. This is what I did. So I had to say, okay, what is my personality? And then amplify that. So I like cigars. I like bourbon. I love caviar. I'm a simple man. I like the finer things in life: cigars, whiskey, bourbon, caviar, Mercedes, right? So I said, well, let me just amplify that personality. Let's make it a little bit funny on my personal Instagram. So I have two social media accounts. I have my personal one, me, and then the Chef's PSA, which is strictly geared towards chefs. My personal one is strictly geared towards my personality, where, you might see me smoking a cigar, drinking a whiskey. I love hip hop music, so I'm always incorporating hip hop music into what I do. Like, you see my personality, like that's who I am. It's funny. I like jokes. I'm posting memes, and I noticed, I'm paying attention to what other people are doing. Like chefs. By the way, Chef Twitter, by the way, is terrible. If you haven't been on Chef Twitter, like it's non-existent. It's terrible. It's posting a recipe. They're all behind their PR teams that, they're afraid to engage with people. They're not saying anything. But the best part about Twitter is all the arguments and the back and forth and all the exchanges that happen. But Chef Twitter is like the most boring place. So my strategy has always been, let me show who my personality is. Let me have fun with it. Let me crack some jokes. So I started posting memes and funny things and pushing the envelope a little bit. And so many chefs that are on my level, they started doing it too. So it was like me telling them, it's okay. It's okay to be funny. It's okay to, you don't have to just post, your beautiful dish all the time. You can have a personality too. And I think that's really what's the differentiator between chefs. And, that's been successful for me. Now, I'm not sitting here saying I'm the most successful chef on social media. I have a following. I make an impact. I engage with the people that I'm on with. But I noticed that's the secret to the success, is just being me versus just all the time. Here's my dish. This is what I created. Like, okay, that's what you create, but who are you?
Yeah. No, I think that also lends itself to a topic that is overblown right now, in my opinion, is that restaurant owners are talking about nobody wants to work. I can't find people to work. And I told a guy the other day, I said, no, nobody wants to work for you. And a lot of the restaurants that they see posting now help wanted online, because you haven't painted a picture. And I think I'm a big believer in painting that picture like you're talking about. You're showcasing your personality. I had 2 ladies apply for jobs in the last couple of weeks. And I asked them, how'd you find me? Like, what made you apply for our company? And the both of them said, I've been following you on LinkedIn for 3 years. And they said, I love your content. It's not all about restaurant marketing and buy from me. Here's how to buy. Here's how great we are. There's videos on there of your behind the scenes when you're down with Guy Fieri, when you're doing this, playing ping pong in the office. There's videos on there. You mentioned hip hop. There's videos on there about all my different orange Jordans I wear. I was afraid 10 years ago to be me. I wore leather shoes, khaki pants, and a turtleneck. It wasn't me. I finally got to a point like, you know what? I need to be me. And when I was the old stuffy Matt, like you're kind of explaining, nobody applied to work at our company. When I'm the new Matt, the last 5 to 7 years, when I made a job post, like I think it was 3 weeks ago now, 54 people applied within 4 days. And all of them, except for one, were gainfully employed. And none of them were hating their jobs. They just saw a better option. And I think that's a huge thing too, is that when you project your actual personality through your content, you attract the right people. And when you attract the right people, like if you're a restaurant owner or a chef, people want to be around you. They're envious of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how right now is the best time to be you. And I'll share something with you. When I was coming up in the industry, like I said, so I started cooking in 1995. But when I was coming up in the industry, some of the very first jobs that I had, they were all European style kitchens. So everything was either French or Italian or continental cuisine, as it was called back then. And, I'm Hispanic, but I could never cook Hispanic food because I wanted to be taken serious as a chef.
Okay.
And there were no serious chefs cooking that type of food. So now fast forward years later, I think that excites me the most is, all my friends that are Hispanic chefs. So I look at Fermin Nunez at Suerte, Edgar Rico, the guys in Michelin in San Antonio. They're doing Mexican food, and it's like, wow, it's the best time to be able to cook your culture and be successful. You don't have to cook what everyone else is cooking anymore. No. Your authentic voice coming through is like, that's what's setting you apart. That's why people want to go to your restaurant, because I'm sure you remember back in the day, is like all high-end restaurants were basically all cooking the same thing, and it was like, it's just in a different city, but it's all the same food. And now it's like, hey, you know what? We could find a great restaurant that's serving Middle Eastern, a great restaurant that's serving Mexican, Jewish, whatever. It's a great time to be a chef and be true to who you really are and cook your food.
No, I love it. Now, I do have one question for you that you mentioned, because you're about hip hop. I have this idea. I was trying to get my dad to do it. So me and my dad do a Thursday podcast called Fire with Dad, where I think we're going on our 4th year. My dad's 75, I think now. He turned 76 in February. And we used to talk business, and then now it's
Mhm.
transitioned into just funny crap in our lives, the stupid shit we do. And I've got this idea. He thinks if I do it, it's going to be, he won't get it, but I think it'd be funny. Is I want to do a podcast with him where we ponder the unanswered questions of hip hop. So, DMX, what did DMX give him? What did Soldier Boy tell him? There's all these unanswered questions in hip hop songs. And my dad's like, are these all going to be D's nuts jokes? I'm like, no, Dad, I want your opinion. And I thought it'd be funny, but it seems like hip hop songs all have these like phrases that we don't know what happened.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to a Wu-Tang concert next week with Wu-Tang, Nas, and Busta Rhymes, and I'm excited about it. It's like, you look at hip hop culture, and what does that mean to chefs? Because a lot of times, we're not allowed to play music in the kitchen, but it's like one of those things that, when I'm getting pumped up to go to work, the hip hop's blasting, I'm like singing along, and then I pull in, it's like, okay, quiet, focus, zen-like state. But hip hop has played a big influence in my outside of work personality and putting me in the zone to go into work.
Oh, I pull into our parking lot jamming something every day, and it's loud. And I pull up back into the parking spots right next to my office. We have 9,000 square feet here, and it's funny. We're like, oh, Matt's here. This morning when I rolled in, it was Drake back to back, and it was just rocking. Same thing. Pull up, and a lot of times we have the police cruisers fill up right in front of our office. They have a gas pump. And so I usually pull in our park like, hey, it's my park. I can go as fast as I want. And I'm flying through, and they just always look at me like, what is wrong with this guy?
So I don't know if you watched the show Succession, but I think season 1, episode 1, one of the sons, he's driving into work and he has his headphones on. He's listening to, I don't remember, I was listening to Biggie or whatever. But he's getting pumped up to go and say whatever he needed to say in the office. That was me. I didn't have a driver, but same scenario.
So you need to watch a skit. You ever watch Key and Peele?
Yeah, great show.
So I came across one on YouTube there, and I was scrolling through, and I don't watch TV a whole lot, usually Netflix or YouTube. And I'm on my phone, and there was, Key and Peele skit that if Nas ruled the world, his song, If I Ruled the World, if it came true. It was so funny how they were acting out what happened in the song in Africa. It's pretty good. So I'll look that up before you go to the concert.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
So, hell, I had some topics planned to talk about, but I think this was better because I got the natural stuff. I was looking through the book, and some of the stuff in the book just cracks me up because there's a lot of humor in here, and there's some things in here I think people would appreciate. I especially think people that have been in the kitchen would deeply appreciate. The new book, as you said, is more about the culinary side of it, and it was interesting because the one thing that is in this book that caught my attention because I was at a restaurant recently is that I was talking to a chef, and we went there and we were talking to him, and he's got some great concepts here in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Indiana. And, Luis on my team said, hey, Chef Ernesto here. And the girl kind of smiled at us and we didn't know why. And then when Chef Ernesto came out, he's like, man, nobody calls me Chef Ernesto. He's like, I stopped going by chef because I didn't go to culinary school. I'm trained in corporate. I went through the corporations. That's why his restaurants run amazing because he learned how to actually run a restaurant from, the companies with 200 of them that have to run them really tight. But, you talked about culinary school's optional, hard work's mandatory. The new book is more about teaching that culinary side. What is it that you see on that side of the business that's an opportunity to help out people that are coming through the ranks?
The fact that you spend the majority of your career cooking behind a stove on a cutting board, really immersed in, the culinary side of things, the pots and pan side. And then all of a sudden you're put in the position and you might not know what, when someone comes to you and says, hey, you need to cut costs, or, hey, I need you to put together, spreadsheet. And like, you don't even know where to begin. You don't even know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So this book was intended to, hey, a lot of times you need a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, you should find one. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of chefs out there put into the position that don't have a mentor. You know what it's like. You're in the restaurant world. The chef gets fired or the chef quits. And then all of a sudden they look at the sous chef and say, you're it. And you're like, me? Like, I'll do it. But then you get there like, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, who's going to teach me this stuff? And, your mentor's gone. There's no one there. It's like, this book is entitled to, if you don't have access to a mentor, this is it. Yep. Not only that, but I give away strategies like, some of the unwritten stuff that you're not supposed to talk about, but everyone does. Strategies for maintaining food costs, it's all the things that you need to know when you're a chef that no one's teaching you because you get put in the position. Now, if you're in one of those situations where you have the ability to learn from someone, great. But the fact of the matter is, I would say about 80% of the cases, you don't have someone that's readily available to you for every silly question that you have when you say, hey, how do you calculate productivity? Well, here's how you do it. So that's what this book is for. It's to teach you those things. Now, the first book, I'll say, Chef's PSA, How Not to Be the Biggest Idiot in the Kitchen, that came about as a joke.
Yeah.
It was someone did something stupid at work. I posted on social media, and then weekly I would post these chef's PSAs like, hey, don't do this, or hey, don't do that. And one of my friends messaged me and he says, hey, turn this into a book and I'll buy it. I was like, okay. So I wrote the book for like my small echo chamber of chef friends. We all get the same jokes. We all think the same. We all work the same. That's who I wrote the book for. I had no idea it would be successful. So now when I look at the book, it's like some of the stuff in there's like, yeah, that might not work in your kitchen. Your kitchen might be different. If this doesn't apply to everyone. This applies to this applies to most scenarios, but it just might not. This one, throw it away. Don't apply that one in your kitchen, but this one might. So pick and choose what you want with the initial chef's PSA, How Not to Be the Biggest Idiot in the Kitchen. Like I said, I wrote that for my friends and I wrote that for people that worked for me. So, I could say the things that I could put in front of them. So.
No, I love it. And that's funny. Now that I know the context of it, I didn't know that. And that it ties it together better. Cause I've joked about, hey, I'm going to get on Facebook every week and make a marketing tip for restaurants. At the end of the year, write a book out of it. And it's just, it could be that simple from a standpoint of, I did a video the other day, 5 things I wouldn't do if I owned a restaurant, and just talking about some of the elements in there. Man, I appreciate your time. I've got the place that people can check you out, chefspsa.com. And you said both books are available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, so both books are available on Amazon. You could chefspsa.com, links to everything. I'm on all social platforms. You should follow Chef's PSA if you're looking for the chef stuff. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I need more followers on Twitter. So if you're out there, that's where you can find me. And then me personally, don't go there looking for chef stuff. You're going to find a lot of jokes and cigars.
Love it. What's your favorite type of cigar?
What do I have right here? Within arm's reach, I got a Cohiba right here.
Okay,
that's after the show. Yeah.
I took there's a guy named Brad Lee who likes Cohibas. It's out in Las Vegas, Lightspeed VT. Little shout out to him. When I went and saw him and had a meeting with him a couple months ago, I took him a box of Cohibas as my thank you gift for sitting down and talking to me about business. But my dad's a big cigar smoker. Whenever I travel, which usually every couple of weeks, I always find a cigar shop and bring him and my mom back, 6 to 10 cigars, and he always gets a kick out of them.
We were talking hip hop earlier. Nas has a line of cigars called Escobar, and they're really good. Oh, wow. I've just smoked them all. I'm out of them, but I enjoy the Escobar cigars.
Okay,
also.
Escobar's cool. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll make sure if you find the books on Amazon, do me a big favor, leave him a review. So get the book and then leave a review. It helps the books be found by other people, and it gives good feedback to it. And then, of course, follow him on Instagram, TikTok, and then get his Twitter following up and help his tweets go more viral. Maybe we can just tag Elon Musk in a bunch of tweets. And if Trump ever comes back on, you can tag him and you'll get all sorts of virality. So that's all we got. I appreciate your time today, Chef.
Thank you so much. And if you're going to leave a review, 5 stars. If you're going to leave less than 5 stars, there's other books to leave it on.
I love it. See you, brother.
All right. See ya.